So last time we talked about thematic analysis. We've learned how to make themes and how to categorize codes into themes. So today we'll talk about content analysis. Kung ano ito and how you do content analysis. So what is content analysis and how can you use it in your research? So, content analysis is a research method used to identify patterns in recorded communication. Usually, ginagamit ito if you want to analyze texts, comments, or pictures, photographs, or pwede rin naman interviews and audio. Especially if ito yung gusto mong i-study or i-analyze. It can be both quantitative and qualitative. Quantitative in a sense that you would focus on counting and measuring words or phrases, kung ilang beses nag-appear ang words or phrases na yun. Qualitative naman, on the other hand, kasi nga, you're focused on interpreting and understanding the text or the images. So, in both types, you categorize or use codes. Parang katulad din siya ng thematic analysis that you need codes so you can categorize. No? Siyempre, in relation, related dapat siya sa context na meron ka. So, gagawa ka ng mga themes and concepts within the texts and then you analyze the results. So, what is it? What is content analysis for? What is it used for? So, usually, researchers use content analysis to find out the purposes, messages, and effects of communication content. No? Ginagamit din ito if you want to make inferences about the producers and the audience of the text they analyze. Let's say, for example, yung mga trolls sa Facebook or yung mga tinatawag nilang DDS, kuno. You want to analyze what their comments are sa comment section, ano yung mga phrases, mga words na ginagamit nila. You keep count, you keep measuring what they keep on commenting. So that's an example ng content. Ano ba yung ibig sabihin nila? Para kanino ba yung comments na tinatype nila? Content analysis can also be used to quantify the occurrence of certain words, phrases, subjects, or concepts in a set of historical or contemporary texts. So these are an example on how you use content analysis. Quantitative content analysis, ito yung example. So let's say for example, there is a political candidate. No, you could analyze yung campaign speech niya for frequency of terms. Sabihin natin yung unemployment. No? Ilang beses bang lumabas yung words na unemployment, jobs, or work. And then, you can use statistical analysis to find differences over time or between candidates. Let's say, for example, sa isang candidate, ilang beses lumabas ang words na yon or phrases na yon. And you can identify or you can differentiate yung anong tawag na ito, yung focus nila or yung mga content mismo nila sa like between candidates. Next is ang qualitative content analysis. Yung example nito is if you want to gain more qualitative understanding of employment issues sa isang political campaign, you can locate yung word na unemployment, no, sa speech na ginawa niya or yung sinabi niya. And then identify kung ano yung mga words or phrases na kasama doon, no, na malapit sa word na yon. Let's say for example, unemployment is near or anong tawag na to? Malapit siya sa word na job or malapit siya sa word na economy or inequality or laziness, mga ganong words. So you can now analyze the meanings of these relationships for you to understand ano ba yung intention and targets, sino ba yung targets niya, no, sa kanyang campaign. So that's an example of qualitative content analysis. Ano pa ba saan pa ba ginagamit ang content analysis? Kasi nga content analysis can be applied to a broad of range context. No? Usually, ginagamit ito sa anthropology, sa cognitive science, sa psychology, or sa mga social science na disciplines. Kasi nga, may mga different goals. No? May different goals and possible goals ang content analysis. No? If we want to find correlation and if we want to see how yung patterns and how concepts are communicated, content analysis is a good way of uh, is a good way of method, research method. If you want to understand intentions ng isang individual or a group or institution, if you want to identify propaganda and bias sa communication, kasi nga you will be counting and measuring, no? And you'll also analyze no, yung mga phrases na katabi nito. Makikita if there is bias and propaganda. No? And revealing differences in communication in different contexts. And lastly, analyzing the consequences of communication content such as the flow of information or audience responses. Especially sa comment section ng Facebook. No? Nagagamit natin ang content analysis. Ano ba naman yung advantages of content analysis? One is, this is an unobtrusive data collection. No, there is no influence. No, the researcher has no influence over the results. Kasi nga, hindi ka directly involved sa participants. You can observe and analyze yung communication and social interaction ng mga participants mo without direct influence. So, ibig sabihin, mas mataas ang reliability and validity nito. Okay, transparent and replicable. Dahil nga it follows a systematic procedure, it can be easily replicated by other researchers. If it is replicable, then your results would yield high reliability. Okay? Kasi nga, when we say replicable, consistent siya, mataas ang reliability nito. Next is, last na advantage is highly flexible. You can conduct content analysis at any time, any location, and low cost. Kasi hindi ka na magbibigay ng mga, anong tawag nito? Mga souvenir or token after ng yung data collection. Hindi tulad sa experimentation na kailangan mo ng juice, kailangan mo ng tinapay, magbigay ka ng token naman lang sa participation mo as a sign of gratitude. No? Pero sa content analysis, okay, kuha ka lang ng mga, anong tawag nito? Data. Of course, syempre, kailangan ng ethics. Hindi yung ilalabas mo na, pati ang name ng, sabihin natin, ay, hate ko ang comment na to, ilalabas ko ang name niya, papakalat ko, papasikatin ko siya, #Raffitulfo. Wag. No, syempre, hindi naman sa cost na ganun. Okay? All you need is to access yung appropriate na sources. Let's go naman sa disadvantages. Ano ang disadvantages of content analysis? Reductive siya. It's because you isolate or you focus words and phrases in isolation. Can be overly reductive kasi you can disregard the context and ambiguous meanings. Yun yung hindi lang maganda sa kanya. Kasi nga, you keep on counting, anong tawag na to, yung mga words without, you disregard yung mga, kung ano yung, saan yung issue na ito. Yung context nga niya. Subjective. Pangalawa is subjective. Sa content analysis kasi, it involves some level of subjective interpretation na maaaring maka-affect sa ating reliability and validity ng results and conclusions natin. So, pero you can try to, anong tawag na to? Mag-validity check ka para iwasan ang subjective na interpretation. Pero some level lang naman kasi siya. So, lastly is in time intensive. No, manual coding kasi yung ginagawa natin, lalo na pag malaki yung ina-analyze mo na text or large volumes of text yung ina-analyze mo. So, it can be very time consuming, especially if you're not using any applications. No, nakakapagod magbilang kung ilang beses na. What if yung ina-analyze mo pala is 130 pages no, ng speech niya? It can be time consuming. Okay. So, punta tayo sa kung paano natin i-conduct ang content analysis. First is you select the content you want to analyze. Paano ba natin malalaman kung sino yung unit of analysis mo? It would be, depende sa research question mo. You choose the texts you want to analyze. And you need to decide una yung medium and yung genre. Let's say, for example, saan ka kukuha? Sa newspaper, sa mga website ba? Especially, sabihin natin, sa social media. Saan sa social media? Kasi marami tayong social media platforms. It might take you the whole sem or baka hindi ka na makagraduate yan. Kasi you want to count lahat ng mga trolls. Sabihin natin yung comments from Facebook to Twitter to Pinterest to wherever you want kasi social media yan. You need to narrow down your what do you call this? Yung mga searches mo, mga keywords mo. Next is genre. Ano ba yung anong klaseng comments, no? Yung kukunin mo. Let's say for example, opinions ba, campaign speeches, trolling ba, paano ba? You need to define no, kung ano yung genre mo. Next is the criteria of inclusion. Newspaper articles lang ba na sa particular na event na ito? Speech lang ba ng isang certain politician? Or website lang ba na ito yung specific type of product na binibenta niya? Yun yung example ng criteria for inclusion. And lastly are the parameters in terms of date range, location. Baka gusto nyong i-analyze yung 1980s. Hindi mo yan ata ma-analyze sa social media. Baka bumalik ka pa dun sa library. Hindi ko na alam kung ikaw. Yan. Depende yan sa'yo. No? Sabihin natin yung sa mga ano pa ba yung magandang i-analyze? O yung September 11, 11/11? 8/11 ba yun? O yung 8/11 na mga reactions. Or yung time na, o sabihin natin yung sa Yolanda, after Yolanda, ano yung mga nangyayari sa social media? Paano ba na mark safe ang mga tao, 'di ba? How were they able to identify na nag-survive sila? Or ano ba yung mga sabihin natin mga posts nila after Yolanda, after their experience? Example 'yan. Kailangan mag-set ka ng date range and syempre yung location kung sino, saan yung gusto mong i-analyze. Okay. If there is only a small amount of texts that meet your criteria, you might analyze all of it, lahat. Pero if masyadong malaki yung i-analyze mo, you can select your sample. Number 2, you define units and categories of analysis. Next is, you need to determine the level at which you will analyze your chosen texts. So, you need to define yung units of meaning na that will be coded. For example, ano ba yung i-record mo? Do you want to keep track sa individual words and phrases? Or the characteristics of people who produced or appear in the text? Titingnan mo rin ba yung mga backgrounds nila? Or, for example, sa images, position, yung presence ba ng image, ano ba yung meron dyan? No? And the treatment of themes and concepts. And next is the set of categories that you'll use for coding. Sabihin natin na mga babae ba? Mga age range nila. Or sabihin natin mga nanay lang yung gusto natin na kunan. Pwede rin naman na mas maging conceptual ka. Sabihin natin na more on pagiging family-oriented, pagiging conservative, So, yun yung mga examples ng paano mo i-define ang iyong units and categories of analysis. Yan. So, after this, after you select and define your categories of analysis, you now develop or you now go to coding so you can categorize your data. So, nakadepende yan sa'yo kung ano yung rules mo, ano yung gagawin mo sa coding. No? Siyempre, you need to anong tawag nito, make codes all by yourself kung mag-isa ka lang, pero pwede rin naman magpatulong ka sa if meron kang ka-group. Okay lang rin naman yan. Yun, you can even ask help for friends na marunong din mag-coding or mag-content analysis para mas valid siya. Makita if pareho, same kayo ng interpretation or same kayo ng results. Okay? Kasi makikita if consistent talaga yung interpretation. Okay? So, ito kasi yung number 4 is, well, if you want na gumamit ng computer programs sa coding, pwede naman. Pero usually, if like example yung sa amin sa anong tawag na to? Yung sa Latrinalia, yung sa CR na Latrinalia, we just counted yung mga words and we coded them according to themes. No? So, yun lang naman yung ginawa namin. Ayun. So, once you're done with coding, tapos ka na mag-code, no, i-examine mo yung data mo for patterns. Kasi sa patterns, you'll be able to draw conclusions in response sa research question mo. And you might say, for example, how can you infer na ito yung mga nangyayari? You'll use statistical analysis para makita mo yung correlations or yung trends. And then, you can discuss your interpretations of what the results mean and make inferences about the creators, context, and audience of the text. So, yun yung nangyayari. Last na yun. Okay. And then you'll make your paper. Introduction, your literature, your results and discussions, your methodology, and then your results and discussions, and your conclusion. So, ito yung example ng kinunan namin ng content analysis, yung Latrinalia. Ito yung mga nakita namin sa UP Diliman na CR, girls and boys. So, ginawa namin ito ng codes and themes. So, that would be the end of our discussion. If you have any questions, yun, i-chat na lang ako.